Need to eat versus want to eat. How to feel satisfied or recognize food satisfaction versus feeling full. Now, these might seem obvious to people because academically, in our mind, we know when we need to eat or don't. And we know in those moments where we think we need to eat, we probably don't need to eat. Need to eat as in must have some food, either for that moment or because we are fasting or changing our diet and we are starving and we have to have it, usually doesn't hit many people here in the United States. Of course, there are cases of that. People are undernourished. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking that in your particular dieting, eating style, or fasting efforts, the true need to eat. A good example and distinction that I came up with happened to me yesterday. I went to an amusement park with my 14-year-old son last minute on day 8 of a fast. No problem. I went in confident, went there. First thing I was hit for, we got in right when the park opened, was the giant funnel cake stand was right there, and I got a wave of that funnel cake fantastic smell just blowing right through the park, and it hit me and I was like, whoa, that smells really, really good. And the thoughts in my mind was like, hey, you know, I'm at the amusement park. I have a special day with my son, but it went past. I realized I didn't need that. I like that. Man, something in me connected with that. And we'll talk about the visceral connection to outside exogenous stimuli like funnel cakes or walking into a break room where they have donuts or someone offering a pizza at a kid's birthday party, and what that connection does and how we really do end up creating connections to those even though they are not part of us and we haven't even tasted it at that point. But that we'll do go into that later. But the need to eat, that was something I for a moment I wanted to eat. I was able to walk through no problem. But through the course of the day, I went on every single roller coaster with my son and thrill ride that they had in the park. That was our goal. We hit them. I showed them how to trek a park old school style, right? And so we hit them, but one after another, these roller coasters were shaking me up big time. They were shaking me up. I don't fit too well into these standard seats of roller coasters. I'm too tall. And so what ends up happening, I end up being jammed in or extremely tight, or I sit really high. For some reason, my torso is longer for proportion than my legs, and I sit very tall. Like when I'm on an airplane, seats, when I sit up the way I like to sit up throughout a flight, the seat, the headrest comes to about here. I can put up the extension and my head still goes over a little bit. I just sit very tall. So in some of those rides, I was up and out of the backrest. And so I had even more emotion going on. And let me tell you, it made me sick. I felt terrible. I felt dizzy. At one point, I thought maybe I was going to pass out. All I could think of was, man, I hope when they wake me up, my son didn't tell them I was fasting and I end up in a hospital somewhere. I do have, if you didn't know this, I don't know if I've told you, a laminated declaration that I've signed and I've had stamped by a lawyer that states when I go to gyms for the first time that if I am to pass out, unless I'm not breathing, do not do anything and do not call an ambulance and do not administer any kind of medical services. My son knows that as well because we've actually done things together and he knows the instructions that if I do something, if I'm doing something crazy, like overdoing it with fasting and extra techniques and stuff that I tend to do, don't panic. If I'm still breathing, leave me alone. I will come out of it. It doesn't last long because it has happened before when I've done some things in combination that were too much for me, and I've passed out at a gym, and I've had other issues, and so it's kind of well known. But if I was to be unconscious and they said, "Hey, he's been fasting. Oh, you mean he hasn't eaten all day?" And he says, "No, this is day 8." Who knows how they would respond? And I don't need some well-meaning med tech doing something to me that I don't want or giving me something to me that I don't want. And you understand the point. In those moments, I felt nauseous. I felt like I was going to be sick. If I wasn't fasting and I had something in my stomach, I am convinced it would not be in my stomach at that point. Several points. I got dizzy. I had a little unstable walking. Most of that comes from the changes as we mature in our spine and the way our proprioception. So going on a roller coaster, as Dan Murphy says, in your 40s is very different than going in your 20s or younger, right? He was right. I was in denial. So I got very sick, waves of nausea, but I knew I don't need to eat. This isn't an acute reaction to not having food. But man, I thought to myself, I would eat anything. at this moment to stop this feeling. Kind of like if you ever been really sick with the flu or something, or some people after drinking and you feel terrible and you just wish you could throw up and end it. That's kind of how I felt, and it was dragging on. The first wave of that water came to be my calming force. I was able to calm it, almost like putting a fire out with water, and that was cool. I was optimistic. But then the next few rides, it kept going. But I knew I didn't need to eat, even though I felt terrible. And at that moment in time, I realized I was thinking very allopathically, very medically. I was looking for a drug. In that case, it was food. It didn't matter if it was the cheese nachos or fries, garlic fries, or a funnel cake for that matter. I was ready to take anything to stop that feeling, to change how I felt. Now, that was an acute moment, but that's what happens to us on a day in, day out basis. When something stirs in us, generically, we'll just say stirs in us and causes us to feel that uncomfort, not right in our skin feeling, we don't like that. And we want to get rid of that, even at the detriment of ourselves, even though we're not thinking that in our mind in that moment. And we go to food because we know food will change us instantly. Food will numb down or numb out some of those feelings, might even end them, might even make us start to feel good. But remember, not feeling bad is not the same as feeling good. That's what I think the distinction is versus need to eat versus want to eat is in a lot of people. We get to a point where we're feeling bad and we eat and we don't feel so bad. But that doesn't mean we feel good, but we start to think that way. That is a very addictive pattern. That's what happens in, just say, alcoholism, right? But alcoholics, when they get to a bad point with that condition, they're at a point where they're not drinking anymore to be social. They're not drinking anymore because they like it. They're not drinking anymore because they have to have it, even. They are drinking to feel normal because the downward swing has them in a low that they feel so bad. They just want to feel not bad. Never mind whatever comes good. But the problem is once you ingest it, if you have that issue, the snowball's rolling and who knows what'll happen. You wake up 4 days later somewhere if you got a serious issue. You see what I mean? But all of that is chasing the not feel so bad feeling in your skin. It gets hyper initiated in things like alcohol, caffeine, nicotine, and drugs. When you come off caffeine, what happens? A lot of people, I don't have this issue. I'm very fortunate, right? But my sister is very similar to me, same parents. If she stops, she goes through shakes. She gets bad headaches and a real bad mood. And when she drinks coffee, when she's trying to stop, it's not because she wants that coffee because, oh, it smells so good. I love how it tastes or what have you, or even the energy. It's to stop feeling bad, right? And then the snowball is rolling. So when we are confronted by a situation socially, triggers are starting to pop up in our life, and we feel some emotional shift that might not feel good. We're starting to feel that uncomfortability right there. I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm not cool in my skin. I am feeling a little bit anxious. Remember that that food isn't going to make you feel good. It will stop you from feeling bad. It maybe bring you back to neutral. That is a subjective line. I don't know, but it's not because you need that food. So, in that concept, if we were to think, okay, what are the things that can help me feel less bad or even better that are not food related? Okay, taking a walk. A short walk, a 5 to 8 minute walk will clear that right out of my system. That bad feeling will come back to normal, if not give me a little elevation. Exercise does the same thing. Sauna work does the same thing for me. A cold shower, although it feels bad in the moment, the rebound effect of feeling pretty darn good happens very, very quickly. Okay, drinking water, maybe just the sensation of swallowing and activating that parasympathetic response in our body is enough to shift you from feeling uncomfortable to feeling normal, right? If you're searching and seeking that feel good all the time, that could be another issue in and of itself, right? Everything is cyclic in our body, just like happiness and sadness. When we are sad, when I am sad, when I am acutely depressed for whatever reason, I have to know in my head, in my heart of hearts, that that is not permanent. That I have not changed into this. This will not continue forever. It will pass if I hold the line and don't act on it and don't overthink it and make it worse. Depression, sadness, upset, It is cyclic. It doesn't last long. We want it to last as short as possible and be as minor as possible, right? But the same thing happens with happiness. When you're on an absolute high, like I was walking around with my son, the sun was out, it was beautiful day, and there was hardly any people in this park, and we were jetting around. I was feeling really good. I was feeling connected. We were laughing, but that also is cyclic. I can't stay in that state. Eventually, you have to shift to something else. You come down, you have a conversation, and so on and so forth. Eventually, you have to sleep. So you come out of it. So it's cyclic as well. But those moments, we want to keep them as strong as possible for as long as possible. Cyclic doesn't mean evenly balanced. It's not a 50-50 partnership. Remember that. So need to eat versus want to eat, if you're feeling like you're trying to satisfy something or trying to just feel normal again, that is a want to eat, not a need to eat. Now, when I got acutely nauseous, dizzy, and I had a little trouble walking a couple times coming off of these rides, that I could have thought, man, that's a need to eat. But if I really step back, that is a want to eat because I'm trying to treat a symptom in that. Okay. As we go through fasting, you become much more hormonally sensitive. That is the goal. You want hormonal sensitivity. That's why I think lab values confuse the heck out of people when they talk about just about anything, but in particular hormones, because you get a number. You get a number. You get high and lows. You get free and bound. You get all these different things. They don't mean anything. They don't tell us how they're working. Testosterone, for example, there's a big range. Everyone's chasing these numbers. So I would rather have someone have a low number with very high efficiency and utility of their testosterone than a high number with low efficiency. I've seen that over and over with bodybuilders who take hormones, steroids. Right? Their number is through the roof, but they are dragging. And I know that in time, that is a guaranteed burnout crash coming. You will just burn through everything system and break down no matter what. High numbers, low efficiency will kill you over time. It degrades the system. You'd rather have low numbers and high efficiency. How do you guarantee the high efficiency? That comes back to lifestyle. So all hormones work this way. Hunger is a hormonal reaction. So is feeling satisfied with what you eat or feeling full. Now, we all know the physical feeling of feeling full, the physical extension of our stomach. We've all gone through Thanksgiving and things like that, where we had to undo our belts or this and that. That comes down to volume, food combining, time of day, all that kind of stuff, right? Where we physically feel full. The problem is most people out there have now associated that feeling with being satisfied from eating, that they're not full until they're really full. That's a problem. That comes down to stretch receptors because your stomach is stretching in and out and all these type of things, and it puts us on the wrong path. The true nature of the hormonal response to food is to feel satisfied. Like you eat it and you're like, I'm cool. You're no longer hungry. You're no longer impulsive if you were. You have a satisfaction with eating and you don't have to eat anymore, no matter how good that food is in front of you. The problem is processed foods have such hyper dramatically intentionally caused tastes and sensations of sweet, of salty, chemical enhancers, and all sorts of things in them that they are a nuclear bomb. They are crack to our system that makes us want more, like it, and eat and eat and eat till we have to feel full to stop. That is a problem. Now, if you're eating whole foods and natural foods and minimally processed foods to the best of your ability, then you will start to experience at first a lack of feeling physically full, right? Because that's a lot of volume without a lot of actual calories in there because it's not processed. So if you're still attached to that feeling full sensation, you're going to feel like you are in the need of eating more. You need to eat more, right? Because you're not feeling like you were before. There is a transition in that. There's steps you can take, and we're taking them now. And so when you're fasting, even more. But when that whole process of recycling, healing, autophagy, detoxification is going on, hormones start working a whole lot better. A little goes a long way. Remember, in a healthy body, hormones whisper, they don't scream. Hormones whisper, they don't scream. They are so powerful, they don't need to scream. They just need to think a thought and it starts to happen. It's that powerful. Emotions are in the same category. So, what are we working towards? The food satisfaction. What helps with that? Quality food, mindful eating, uh, being on a plan. understanding, recording, and following some kind of program all will help with the mental, physical element of promoting food satisfaction. So you can eat to a point where you're not overeating, you're eating what you want and should, and you feel just as satisfied with it as you did maybe months ago when you had to eat until you physically felt full. But learning that distinction is a big deal because the opposite of that distinction is impulsivity. Okay. Impulsivity happens when you start to eat and you need more. You need more. You need more. That's why it's built into us. That's why we eat the most if we have no control over or plan for what we're doing, eat the most in the first 10 minutes of eating. We could eat a lot more than our stomach really wants and can hold, but we can because those hormonal signals haven't kicked in yet. They take a little time because remember, in nature and in our evolution, fast nutrients didn't exist. There were no such thing. This is a new phenomenon. You can drink a liquid diet. You can drink pure glucose and fructose and artificial sweeteners. You can drink protein. You can drink fat. You can do all these different things, and it hits your system really fast. And the body's like, "Holy crow, what is all this?" And different reactions happen, but it takes a little bit of a time for those hormones to kick in. By then, you might have already done your damage, overeaten, and so forth. Need to eat versus want to eat. If your need is to fill a get your fix, that's an addictive pathway, right? That's an addictive pathway. Check that and find something else that will make you feel less comfortable and bring you back to normal or make you feel a little bit better instead of eating. You'll be happy you did. And satisfaction, start to learn to savor the foods, chew them, taste them, feel the texture. Hey, here's another issue. Remember, your mouth has about a 4 bite capacity before it starts to numb out, if even that. One, two, three, four, and you're out. If you think about it with drinking, I think people know this, especially if you ever drank wine. After the first glass of nice wine or second glass, most people shift to the cheaper wine. Why? Because they can't tell the difference at that point. They're not drinking it for the taste or for the distinction. When you taste wine at a taster, they only give you four to taste from, and you're supposed to cleanse your palate beforehand. You wonder why they don't have flights of 10 different tastes. You lose that taste. Sommeliers know that. You only have a limited taste. Those receptors have to come back. And so you need more and more and more to get that taste that you want. So the first bite of a dessert is the best. Second, pretty good. Third, right on. Fourth, now we're going into numb land and we need a lot more to get that physical sensation and what we thought we were getting in the first bite. We're chasing the high that we cannot catch. And you have to have time before those receptors repeat. So savor, enjoy, go slow. That will help with the process. Allow hormones to settle in. Now that they're so sensitive, it will happen quickly. And you will notice you can stop when you're satisfied because you know the difference of what that is, right? You're seeking it. You see what you seek. Go for satisfaction over feeling full. Look at times where you feel you need to eat when it's really a want and see what you can put in there instead. That's my 2 cents for today. I hope it helps. Let me know what you think.